Zero, I'm going to have you take the reins on this because I'm not exactly. I mean, I know a few things, but I'm not as in depth about this as you are. So, there was some news to talk about the Intellivision Amica. So, before we get into the news, why don't you go ahead and talk about what exactly is the Intellivision Amica?
So the Amico was a console that Intellivision was trying to prop up. I believe it was either on Kickstarter or Indiegogo. I forget where. It's been so long, but essentially, they were trying to set up the Amico as being uh, kind of like the second coming of the original Wii. So a family console with games that are easily accessible for gamers young and old.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, just a lot of folks who grew up with gaming in the 70s and early 80s were just like, oh, that's awesome. Love my Intellivision from way back when or whatever. So a lot of excitement for it and everything. Um, Essentially, it's a console with two, I guess you could call them smartphone looking controllers because they have a touch screen and then they've got like a jog wheel with a D-pad sort of a thing going on.
Yeah, it's
It's,
really weird.
yeah, very weird, very strange. And then it's got like two shoulder buttons on the right side of the little touchscreen controller. So
It looks like
just
a Zune almost.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So it's real strange looking and everything. And just for a while there was the excitement, but there was really no clear plan on what the release schedule was like or anything like that. So um, things get interesting from there because sometime last year they had talked about their plan on how games will be sold and developed for the console for any third parties who are interested in producing anything for the Amico. And there were some really weird arbitrary restrictions, and I think the one that really sort of got everyone questioning things was the restriction that if you sell a game on the Amico's digital store, like a digital download, the maximum price that it can have is a whopping $10.
I thought it was 20.
No, that's the retail copies, like the actual printed hard copy cartridges that you could buy potentially at any retail store. Then those could have a maximum price cap of $20.
Oh, okay, okay. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
So they announced that, and then on top of that, um, this was around October last year. They also made a whole big, um, I guess you could call it like uh, push that they were selling uh, boxed Amico games, and if you bought these, they would have limited collector's edition on the covers, and it was kind of goofy because, of course, a lot of people were just like, "Okay, so you're selling us the games, but we don't have a timeline for when we can get the machine to play these games."
That was
So
weird.
it was absolutely strange, and what made it stranger still was just the fact that um, the pricing was just absolutely nuts because uh, you could either buy like the games were split into two packs of four. So if you wanted to buy pack A or pack B, they were $79.99 for one pack of four games. Or if you wanted the entire bundle, it was $150.
Hmm.
And the first 50,000 copies that were sold would have a special limited collector's edition tag right on the box. So just absolutely strange stuff. And then, long story short, Tommy Talrico had been saying some pretty controversial stuff. The new CEO sort of took over for Tommy Talrico, and ever since some of the weird PR madness, things got real quiet for the Amico.
Mhm.
And then, after all the silence, there were still questions of, hey, so when are we going to be able to get our hands on the Amico hardware? You have games for us, clearly, and you've mentioned that there's going to be a download store to download games, so we assume you probably have developers on board to produce games, but we still don't know when the hardware's coming out. And I want to say it was sometime earlier this year, they made a sudden decision to basically say, hey, so we need to sort of double back on this. So we're going to turn off pre-orders for the Amico, and we'll just have to come back to another time when we have something a little bit more concrete and ready.
Mhm.
So a lot of people are starting to get worried, and we're just like, okay, well, that's real weird. No, I hope they're gonna allow us refunds for any of us who decide to just plunk down the cash real early, because just here we are, almost 2 years in, and we've got nothing. Then we get to what happened sometime last week, which was that all of a sudden the trademark for uh, the Intellivision Amico has been flagged at the U.S. Patent Trade Office as dead. So, and that's real interesting because, of course, if you want to sell something that's got a brand on it, naturally you want to try to make sure that the trademark status is locked in, so you don't have anyone sort of running away with your trademark.
Right.
And for all of a sudden the trademark to be flagged as dead as of June 20th of this year, it's really odd, especially when for the longest while they were real confident on the Amico. They were just like, oh yeah, we're going to be able to uh, sell you an experience like no other, and it's also not looking great too, because of course they had touted that the Amico would have exclusive games, and one of the things that the new CEO Phil Adam had announced was just to make sure that the development for the Amico stays alive. They were cutting all sorts of operations costs. Um, they were trying to make sure that with all the cost cutting that they were doing, that the Amico would still come out as a quality machine. And it's kind of funny about the whole exclusivity bit for the Amico's games, because one of the things that Phil Adam also announced was that Intellivision would be licensing out its legacy IPs to developers who want to release games on other platforms. And the idea behind that was to kind of keep the cash flowing.
Mm.
So just more and more, it just seems like that the Amico is going to be relegated to vaporware status. Just all these things don't really paint a great picture, especially if they're all of a sudden just backing down on putting a solid release date target on this thing. So when the console had its quote-unquote release from the investment campaign, they were trying to set a target for $5 million. They only raised $58,000.
Oh wow, that's not enough.
Yeah, so it just all these things kind of combined together. It just doesn't look good. And
Yeah.
the more and more just I look at this news brief that was covered by Video Game Chronicles, or the Video Games Chronicle, just it doesn't paint a good picture of the Amico. And I think that we'll probably find out in the next couple months if this thing is just going to be vaporware and it's just going to evaporate.
Yeah. I mean, there were signs that something was a little off with this console. I think you pretty much mentioned everything. I would push back a little on the abandonment on the trademark. It could very well be that, and this is the only defense I have really, it could very well be that they probably lapsed the Amico and decide to just name it the Intellivision and just go with that. But but with the rest of it, yeah, this is a really weird console that I just didn't get the appeal of, especially when you talk about having. Isn't this the console also that you must have a there isn't like downloadable content, that you must have a hard copy and it must be finished when you put it out? Like, is that the same thing is this the same console, or am I thinking of something else?
No, I think in one of the third-party developer design docs that had leaked out, I believe one of the requirements was if you make a game, be it a downloadable title or a copy that is purchasable at retail, it must be 100% feature complete. So no DLC, no loot boxes, just straight out. You got to have a 100% complete game.
Right.
Though I think in one of those design docs, they did add like a clause for the potential of being able to do online updates. So let's say you've got like a bug that causes the system to just go to a hard crash, then yeah, you can still patch the games. But I think they were just like, no, we want to make sure that any games you sell on this system are 100% feature complete. So no weird shenanigans or whatever.
So basically, at the company's discretion, they will allow it. Is basically what it sounds like. Okay. Look. When I heard about this, like, this sounds like a bullet point list of what old gamers have been saying they hate about video games nowadays, and for good reason. We're both old video gamers, pretty much at this point. We won't give out our age, but yeah, I think that's fair, right, Zero?
Yeah. I mean,
okay.
For anyone out there who wants perspective, my first console was the original NES.
Same. And yeah, and as we get older, yeah, we get kind of annoyed by the constant DLC and the patches and the games not being complete when they're officially released. We hate that too. But what I didn't get about this console, really, is that that's nice that you want to do that, but gamers are, in a way, tech enthusiasts. As much as they do hate that stuff, they do want systems that up tech, that have better graphics, that do different technological advancements in AI or in how they process features in a console. They want that stuff. So to then say, oh yeah, we're stripping all of that out to have a console just like the Intellivision or Amica, but for today, was kind of weird, in my opinion. And I'm surprised that a bunch of people bought into it. What else, really? I mean, and then with the max that you can actually do for a game is $20. What's going to stop these developers from then saying, okay, if the most I can get is $20, then I'll just get it. I'll just put it out in here and port it to PC, Switch, Xbox, and PS4 to get the maximum amount of money I can get. So then there are no really exclusive games for the Intellivision Amico. So I look at this business document, I'm like, this is not a sound business investment. Like, this is actually kind of bad. So I think from that point, when you told me all this and I read up on it, I was like, this just seemed like a bad idea all around. So it kind of made me start thinking that maybe this was, I joke that this is maybe a money laundering scheme of sorts, but I don't think that's really what's happening. But yeah, this is not a really sound business plan. I don't think they made they didn't really think about this right as much as they should have. Because the best thing to do when you have a business is to not only have the idea, but then work the idea out to think, okay, I have this. How does it compare to this? How does it compare to this? What will happen if this happens? things. You have to think 5 steps ahead. And it just doesn't seem like they thought anywhere past, I'm an old gamer, I hate the way games are these days, dagnabbit, and I'm going to make it the way they used to be. Without thinking, yeah, but there's a reason why they're like this. So,
Yeah, and part of me almost wonders if this was kind of like a really, really short-sighted idea.
Yes.
They saw where just Atari made their little VCS console, and they were just like, "Hey, we wanna do something like that and get a piece of that." And in their chase to try to do something like the VCS, they wanted to try to go the high technology route with that weird hybrid touch controller that looks like a smartphone.
Yeah.
So, at least that's my take on it. It just seems like just sort of a haphazard slapshod sort of idea on, hey, we want high technology, but also on top of being high technology, we want something that's truly unique and interesting. But just how do we get to that point?
Yeah, and you can't have high technology, but then take away what technology has brought in the past 10 years. You kind of can't do that's. It's kind of hypocritical. Maybe not hypocritical is the word. What's the word for this? I'll spend all day figuring it out. But it's just, to me, it just felt like they. You said it best. They didn't think about it the whole way through. They just it was just kind of like an idea, farted it out. So this is great. Let's just do it this way, and they didn't think that past that. And if this was a legit business that they were doing, and were legitimately trying to do this console, I think they just hamstrung themselves right off the bat. So, as for it to being vaporware, yeah, I think you're right. I think that this essentially is going to be like a lot of Kickstarters and Indiegogos. This will probably end up just disappearing in like a year or so. And there are going to be people who are going to still be backing the campaign going, hey, what happened to this? Not realizing that the company's gone. So,
yeah. Well, I mean, there is good news. Apparently, they are offering refunds, which
are they?
is
Okay.
kind of surprising to see because I figured they would have just taken the cash and run.
Yeah. I mean, I guess for goodwill's sake, they probably should do that, especially if they're going back to the drawing board and saying we may have to, like, even if they just do an Intellivision mini console. I mean, that might be their best. That might be the best idea that they have right now.
Yeah,
So,
just something like a little mini retro throwback console, and it'd probably do fine.
Yeah.
It'd probably do just perfectly fine, especially for anyone who grew up in the late '70s, early '80s with Intellivision. They'd probably end up quickly buying that up, going, hell yeah, way to remember my gaming origins, hell yeah.
Yeah. And those people, old as balls. Holy shit, dude. 70s? Man, you gotta be real old to like an Intellivision. Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, God. It's creepy. The wrinkles and shit. God. Anyway, we will move. Well, you have more to add to that, or?
No, I think pretty much what's done is done with that, and just everything that I've seen from this whole Intellivision Amico saga, just it looks like it's just a massive clusterfuck. And I mean, I'm definitely glad that they're refunding people.
Yes, that's good.
Decide to request for the refund because I'm just so used to just seeing Kickstarters go wrong. Company ends up basically just going, oh well, thanks for the cash. So yeah, we'll see you later. Yeah,
Yep.
yeah,
Essentially.
we'll be back with something else. And then of course they end up just completely vanishing in the mind share completely.
Yeah.